Global tensions are rising, markets are unstable, and currencies keep losing value. While governments print more money, smart investors are moving into physical gold and silver. Assets that have protected wealth for centuries. That's why more people are turning to Charlie's Gold to secure their future before the next financial shakeup hits. Don't leave your wealth exposed. Own something real. Own gold and silver. Visit charlies.gold today.
Well, hi guys, I've got Micah again here from Noble Gold, and it's good to see you because at the moment it's such a good time to be putting your money into gold or silver away from the banking system as we watch the old banking system, the old fiat currency collapse. And it's now becoming more than obvious to people, even those that were cautious to start with. It's quite clear now that gold and silver is a better place to put it than the banks. Good morning for me. Good evening for you, Micah.
I know. Thank you so much for accommodating the time. It's always hard for us to be kind of on the same same time of day, but I appreciate it. And you're right. Great time to buy. Things have cooled a little bit on the retail side. I'll say that as a dealer. We had
Mhm.
record October, record November, record December, record January, record February, record March. April, things started to cool a little bit. May is a continuation of that trend. And I get
Mhm.
it. I understand. You know, when you watch the price running up, you get a lot of momentum chasers, right? People who see, oh, I own some of this stuff. I need more of it. Or I've been watching from the sidelines. Now it's really shooting up and taking off. Let me take that opportunity now to chase that price. And then, of course, when it corrected at the end of January, which was something natural and that we expected, and then I told clients would naturally happen after rising so much, you want to see it pull back a little bit. And then you want to see it go sideways at a higher level before relaunching. And that's exactly what we're having. But it went up. We had price chasers. It dropped down. We had dip buyers, which is fantastic. People who, come in and take advantage of lower prices. But we've kind of exhausted those two groups. All the dip buyers have bought, all the momentum chasers, we already had that. Now we're kind of going in, to me, knowing what happens next, it's the most exciting period. It's the time that people should be buying the most. It's when it's coiling and going sideways in a narrow, um, what's called a consolidative zone, right? We've basically been bobbing around 75 to $80 for 4 months. And we've gone
Mhm.
as high as 93, we've been as low as 62, but 80% of the last 4 months has been spent kind of grinding around this 75 zone. Now, what this is called is basing or putting in a new floor, right, at a much higher level, which will be used as a launch pad to jump out of here. Now, that's the time where I can't say it's 2 weeks or 2 days or 2 months, but I actually think, now I may be proven wrong, but I think it's only probably the next month or two that we could still, on the long end, be in this kind of sideways movement. But I get it. It's boring. People who bought, people who are waiting, people who would like lower prices aren't getting them. People who want price to run away, that's not happening either. But think of it as a spring that's being compressed, right? We're not getting lows, we're not getting highs. It's being compressed and it's going sideways in that very narrow price range. And when we have a technical breakout, which to me, as someone who's very price sensitive, I watch these levels, spending a weekly close, so spending more than a week up above 80 will open up the doors to challenging the 90 zone. And then once we can actually get up above 90 and stay above 90 for a couple days or have a weekly close up above there, then it's a perfect setup to re-challenge 120, which is now the all-time high. I'll share this with your viewers, not to dangle a carrot or to try to, and try to instill any kind of feelings of greed, but I do have a price target of 150 to $200 over the next 6 to 12 months. And
Mhm.
that's because silver will go sideways and then it jumps by 2 or 3 times. It'll come back a little bit. It'll go sideways before it does the same thing. We saw that when it went from 11 to 30 back in 2020, and then it went sideways in the mid to low 20s for 5 years. I don't think we're going to spend any amount of time close to that in the mid 70s, but we've spent 4 months already longer than I thought. When we launch out of this price zone, it's a triple digit number for sure, Charlie. So I know it's not interesting, right? Again, you want to buy it when it's running away, you want to buy it when it's dropping. We don't have any really exciting price action lately. So I think that's probably why. But smart buyers are still accumulating more. I'm still accumulating more. I know you're still accumulating more. I know some of your audience members are accumulating more from me actually this past week. And so, you want to just take advantage of it. I know it's boring, but it's part of the process, right? You got to go through these sideways churns before you can launch to a new reality, right? Which is a term that one of my favorite analysts is calling for. Michael Oliver, who I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he has a very aggressive target of 3 to 500 this year by September. I
Mhm.
think he's saying Labor Day. Now, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch. I don't like to be kind of pie in the sky target guy, but I'd like to say easily 150 to 200 is doable this year. And actually, I think that aligns with Bank of America's target of 309. So, I'm not out of the ballpark either, I don't think. But this is the time you want to be jumping in, right? Although it's just very counterintuitive.
I also had a very interesting discussion with my daughter and my granddaughter who've been over for the last week. And it's my granddaughter's seventh birthday coming up this coming week.
Oh,
And
that's
we were
nice.
talking about what she wanted, and she wants this, and she wants that, and she wants that. And I said to my daughter, I said, the reality is I can go and buy that for her without a problem at all. The problem is that next year that will be worth nothing. And I said, I'd much rather you set up a gold account. You can manage it, you run it, you look after it. But on her birthdays and on different times, put a little bit of gold aside for her so
Yeah,
that, and she's 7. So in 10 years' time, 11, 12 years' time, when she needs something to buy a house or to buy whatever, she's got something of value. And the
right,
one thing that you and I know with gold and silver, you go back 100 years, you go back 75 years, you go back 50 years, you go back 25 years. It's been proven that gold and silver have gone up, not down over
right.
time. There will
That's right.
always be ups and downs, a little, as I call it, micromanagement, where one day it's up, next day it's down.
Yep.
Um, but the reality is that over time, you're better off buying gold and silver than leaving it in a bank, or there's many other things that I would advise against doing over against having something stable. There's only one little problem that I found out the other day with owning gold and silver, and I've got a significant amount of gold. I spoke to one of my banks. In fact, I spoke to 3 of my banks, and I said, I currently have X amount of gold in custody and physical gold that is allocated. And I wanted to know if I could use that to derive an income from without liquidating. And they said, not at this current time. It's something we're looking at. I said, well, it's
Mhm.
interesting you're looking at it because you've been doing it for a long time as a
Right.
bank. And now with ISO 22022, you've been forced to make sure that you're backing your position. So you're now having to have
Right.
assets within the banking system to give you stability.
Right.
So
Yeah,
why can't
that's
you extend that to me? And of course, at the moment they haven't, but it's a very interesting door to open. Sorry, Micah.
no, that's an interesting question that I've actually had a few times myself as well. People would like to be able to have a yield on their gold. Unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
one of the things it doesn't do. Government bonds, I don't want to own them right now, but that's where you get interest paid to you every year. You could own corporate bonds or junk bonds or any kind of CD that pays an interest. Now, it should pay to hold gold. Now, it does, in my opinion. Obviously, we've seen a very large price appreciation. That is what you're after. When it comes to the commodity, you're holding it knowing that it protects you from the devaluation of currency. It insulates you from the fragility of the banking system, but ultimately you hold that form of your wealth in a format that's outside of all of those things, outside of all counterparty risk, outside of any kind of ability to be manipulated or any liability. But we should be able to earn for holding the premier asset like the banks do. Now, I have heard of initiatives to do this where you can earn yield in gold. I still think that some of these are a little bit more of like novelties than actually tested models because you have to figure if you're earning some kind of yield, you're lending it out or or it's
Hmm.
being leased to some extent to maybe a jeweler or a business or a financial entity. And I don't want to have any kind of encumbrance on my metal. And so
Hmm.
it would be nice to be paid a yield, but I know coming into it that's not actually the function
Hmm.
or the form that I hold. That's not going to produce that kind of outcome, and I know that. So,
Hmm.
obviously, people who live on fixed income, there are other ways. I would say my clients that have put sizable amounts into gold and silver, they've far outpaced the type of income that they're taking out of their precious metals IRAs. They are selling metal to withdraw the cash to do that, but the growth of their gold and silver IRAs have outstripped the growth of their stock portfolios, of their annuities, of their CDs, of any kind of fixed income instrument. Gold and silver are, you know, beating the socks off of all that stuff, and they will continue to for many, many years because we have so much stuff going on, right? Interesting that you note though about your granddaughter, and she's right in between my two oldest daughters. So I have a 2, 6, and 8 year old. Um,
Hmm.
they have over the years from me received many, many ounces of silver and gold
Hmm.
as gifts, and I have to tell you that it just they won't appreciate it until they're older. They absolutely are like,
Hmm.
oh, no, not another one of these shiny, shiny things
Hmm.
they keep in their little jewelry box with all their other
Hmm.
ounces. Um, but you're so right about the history behind it. Obviously, culturally in the West, we don't have a like kind of a historical appreciation or relationship with the metals. But we were talking before we hit record today. Obviously, in the East, that's different. You get it for weddings, you get it for birthdays. You gift gold and silver as a long-standing gift that increases in value over time. Um, I think we'll get there. We're just
Hmm.
still so far removed from that, right? We're 50 years outside of a gold standard, Charlie, right?
Hmm.
More than that,
Yeah.
50 something. So, prior to coming off, I think people viewed gold and silver as money, kind of as an interchangeable, right? Like you can go to the gold window and $34 gets you an ounce of gold, or 34 or an ounce of gold gets you $34 cash. You can make change. Um, we just don't think about it in those ways, but culturally, we're behind everyone else. Like we're not as old as a civilization as China and India and these places that really, really value and respect the thousands of years that gold and silver have done that primary function of getting you into the best and safest asset of all time.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, are headed in that direction. They're headed in the right direction. It's just, most people won't do something to protect themselves until you've had some kind of event or crisis, right? And I think on our last episode, we talked about all the makings of the next crisis. You've got high energy prices, you've got insane amounts of national debt, you've got yields on long-term government bonds shooting up like crazy because of inflation expectations because of the war and high oil prices. And that's making credit a lot more expensive, whether it's a credit card or a car loan or a mortgage or a commercial line of credit or anything debt based is based on long-term bond yields. So we're seeing the economy contract under higher energy prices. We're seeing, again, crazy national debt. And unfortunately, this isn't the case in just the US. It's really all over the world. Bond yields are blowing out everywhere. The UK, Japan, the US, of course. China's the only place where they're going down, but it does not bode well for just the state of the economy in general. And, I'm not a pessimist. I hope for the worst or sorry, plan for the worst, hope for the best. But I just don't feel very good about all the things that are aligning right now. It's an alignment of the stars that's quite negative, honestly. Most expensive stock market, most expensive real estate market, highest yields in years, the most amount of debt, consumer sentiments in the gutter. I don't see how any of this gets any better.
No,
But I don't know.
well,
Yeah, go ahead.
this is all part of the exposure, and it's very important that people see it. I remember being told 7 years ago, Charlie, you can't tell the people, they have to see it. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. We're seeing an incredible time in history where property prices are on crazy high. I mean, the price of property. I looked at a house the other day, and yes, it's a nice house. Yes, it's a nice location. Yes, it's a nice plot. But the price realistically is 4 or 5 times what it should actually be. Yes, it's a secure area, but nowadays to have to pay that amount of money to live in a secure area, um,
Yeah.
why has the world become so unsafe? It's become unsafe because the people who run it have run it into the ground. And when
On
you, as a
purpose.
government, steal from people, the people, by definition, think it's okay to steal because the
Right.
government's doing it to them. It's a
Yeah.
psychological thing. And it's very much both Michael and myself have made the same decision in life, the same choice, that we are going to be responsible ourselves for our wives and our families and our future. We're not
Hmm.
leaving it to chance. We're not leaving it to other people. And I would urge everyone to have a small amount of physical gold and silver at their disposal, under their control, maybe at their house or wherever or nearby. And then I would keep the bulk of it in a secure warehouse that, yes, you have to pay for a small amount, but to have it insured, allocated, and physical is very important. Because there was one particular bank who said to me, yes, what we could do is give you a loan and use that as security, but we'd have to change your physical gold for paper gold. No, and that's not going to happen. I'm not going to change physical metal for paper.
That's
That's
right.
the old way. And this is where common sense kicks in. And I was just testing and feeling the water for my audience and for the world to see what was available. Not that I need to borrow money, I don't. It's something that I was interested in because there are many people that do. But it was interesting their reaction. Yes, if you change physical for paper, then we can use that paper as leverage. And I was like, for a loan. And this just shows how corrupt the banking system is. The whole
Right.
system is corrupt.
Yeah.
But if you want to be ahead of the game, I would encourage every one of you to own physical gold, physical silver, have a small amount in your own possession, but have, as it grows, make sure it's secure and don't tell people what you've got and where you live. Otherwise, people will end up knocking at your door in the middle of the night uninvited. It's not wise. One of my best friends is a multi billionaire. He's been a friend of mine for years, for nearly 40 years. He convinces everyone around him that he's flat broke. He's lived his life like that for 30 years.
Good for him.
The minute people realized he was wealthy, he claims that he's absolutely flat broke. And even to this day, he's in his 80s. He's still claiming to be absolutely broke. And yet he's a billionaire.
Right. Smart man, that's right. Not living beyond your means, having some as having an emergency fund of cash, having an emergency fund of metal. I live by that exact setup, Charlie. So most of my wife and I, we, as U.S. citizens, we have IRAs, we had 401ks, we've amassed retirement accounts that we moved into our Noble Gold program where we have it vaulted. It's segregated, which is a little different than allocated, but it means that you have essentially a safety deposit box. And that
Mm-hmm.
is your IRA, and it holds the metal that you buy. And we audit it and we photograph it, and you can go there and touch it, and you can pull it out at any time. It's a flat rate. It's $160 a year through the IRA program, which is nothing because it's
Mm-hmm.
normally a basis point calculation. The more you hold, the more you pay. And as it goes up, you pay more as well. So it's still worth it, but we have a really awesome structure. But I have always kept a lot of metal here. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot is relative, like it's not to some, but it's enough for me. Now, again, 80% of it's in my vaulted account, my wife and I's IRAs combined, but at home, I always keep some. Now I've
Mm-hmm.
paid painters, I've paid different contractors, I've paid my hunting guides in gold and silver, and they love it. They love it because it was, the last big hunting trip that I went on. I told the guide, and at the time, I think we had $1,800 gold. So I said, hey, $1,800 gold coin or 2,000 cash, your choice. You take what you want, no judgment here. Of course, we spent the whole week talking about gold and stuff while we're riding on horseback and stuff like that. And By the end of it, of course, he took the gold, but it's worth 4,500 now. That's only 2.5 years ago,
Hmm.
right? The only tip he's probably ever received that's more than doubled in price in just a couple of years. So I'm sure that he has that tucked away in a gun safe somewhere as well. But it's kind of to your point. They do their role, they protect you. And yeah, I think it's just a part of protecting yourself for, there's a lot of chatter right now. I'm sure you're hearing a lot of it on your channel about the gold or a financial reset, a great reset, a gold revaluation. It's not something that I spend a lot of time talking about only because it's basically going to be a let's wait and see kind of thing, but we're getting pretty close and maybe it's a good time to kind of bring that up and to just touch on it here quickly, Charlie, is a lot of this rumbling and speculation is that on the 4th of July of this year, which is a significant milestone here in the US, it's the 250th anniversary of independence. Not an anniversary that you want to squander, right? Because you're waiting 25 or 50 years for the next big one. And of course, Trump either way won't be in office. So a lot of what's being discussed behind the scenes, and I've seen evidence, I think, in financial markets, you're seeing some really big, I'm talking multi-million dollar, 10 plus $100 million bets being made about $20,000 gold and $900 silver later this year.
Hmm.
The idea is that, like we've seen from this administration over the course of, their 2-year tenure, is they are actually making big bets on insider information, whether it's on tech stock or semiconductors or this or that. And I don't think that's fair. I think that's obviously a huge sign of corruption. But the idea is that we're going back to some form of gold standard in time for the 250th anniversary. There will be a gold revaluation that essentially puts a bunch of free money in the government's coffers because we hold the most gold on paper of any country. It's 8,100 tons. Um,
Hmm.
Now, whether it's all actually in Fort Knox or not, we'll find out. But at 8,100 tons, every $4,000 that we reprice gold by, it actually generates cash for an account that the Treasury holds called the gold revaluation account. And the idea behind that is the Treasury still accounts for all that 8,100 tons at the old 1974 price of $42 an ounce. Well, it's
Hmm.
not 42, it's 4,500. So
Hmm.
if they revalue even just market to market, they'd get more than $1 trillion in cash. Now they are $37 trillion in debt, so that's not going to make a very big dent. But the idea is they, you know, could put a 20, 30, 40, $50,000 gold price on gold, and then they'd be able to really cut the debt down at that point. They'd be able to chop it in half. Some
Hmm.
people are suggesting you need $140,000 per ounce gold. And if they did that, they could wipe the debt out overnight, right? And so
Hmm.
thematically, we've seen Trump with his gold tie here and there. We've heard him talk about entering a new golden era, the golden age of America. And, again, it's a bit of a stretch. We haven't talked about it, and I don't often, but a lot of channels I go on, they want to proactively ask me about this stuff. And I say, hey, look, it's a bit of a dice roll, right? We don't know if it's going to happen that way. Um, I myself doubt if we will proactively shift to a new gold standard. I think what happens first is we'll have a big recession, we'll have even a depression globally, and a global crisis, kind of like COVID slash 2008, right? Kind of a combination between the two. And I think that sets the stage for money printing from all governments like we've never seen. And then I think
Hmm.
after that, they wreck fiats permanently and indefinitely we switch away from paper-backed monetary systems. They will now all be gold-backed systems. So my view is that we'll get to the same destination, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 gold, whatever it is, $1,000 silver, but it'll only happen after the next big printing cycle of money in the next crisis. But it's going to be June next week. It's the 28th that we're speaking here today, Charlie, and 4th of July is only 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away, not even. So it's not long to wait to see what happens. I'm crossing my fingers. I can't do anything differently, right? If it happens my way in several years, or if it happens this year in a proactive manner, I have no doubt we're going to those types of gold and silver prices, but I'm all set, right? I can't do anything else. If it happens by surprise or if it happens slowly but surely, but most people are still not prepared. That's the point. I guess I'm trying to make is it could be a very spicy year. We could see some crazy, and again, that's sort of backed by who would bet tens of millions of dollars On a $20,000 gold price, which seems like such a stretch, but these contracts and that price call is set for like end of year this year. So do we get there
Well,
naturally?
I,
Do we
I
get
know a
there?
little bit more than most people on this specific subject,
I know you
and,
do.
and we're 100% moving, not not 100% to a gold backed, but to an asset backed. America will go to gold backed, but countries like Zimbabwe will go to diamond backed, and there'll be certain countries that go to asset backed. But every
Mm.
country will be asset backed, and that will happen in 2026 and 2027 combined. And this is very much also very much to do with personal frequency. For those people that are on a certain frequency, they will see it very clearly this year. For those who are not, who are very much in the third dimension, who are stuck in the old mindset, it'll take them longer to see it and to participate. So it will take them through into 2027.
Right.
Everything will be completely finished by 2030. That's clear. But for those people who are at the right frequency and understand and comprehend what's really happening in the world, the collapse of the old system, and if the countries were businesses, they would have been declared bankrupt a long time ago.
Oh, geez, would they ever? Right? Or they'd be in jail for counterfeiting money.
Correct.
If we
Correct.
did
So
what
those
they
days
did,
are over.
yeah, agreed. Well, I agree with you. I think ultimately tangible assets and commodities are going to be the way of the future, right? It's going to be the way that wealth is calculated. I like to think of my wealth in terms of acres and ounces.
Yeah.
I only live on 2.5 acres, but that's enough for us. We've got a homestead, and we've got everything we need, chickens, gardens, fruit trees, you name it, and we're always working at it.
Hmm.
But when it comes to ounces, I don't care about what it's worth in terms of monetary value.
Hmm.
Could be hundreds of thousands, it could be millions. It doesn't matter to me because, like you said, Zimbabwe, they've got a lot of great resources, but they've got $1 trillion banknote.
Hmm.
It buys you like a beer,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Gold could be $1 million an ounce, but if that happens, it basically means it's, $100,000 for a ham sandwich, right? So it's
Hmm.
relative to me. I don't really care. I'm not bothering to measure my wealth in a unit or a unit of measurement that ultimately is going to zero, right? And that will
Hmm.
completely be irrelevant, right? So I know that my gold and silver, my house, my land, these things that are, owned outright with no encumbrances and no financial instruments behind them, no counterparty risk. They will reprice in the next system at whatever level they need to be at, which is obviously going to be much higher when you see all the derivatives and all the debt, all the paper-based stuff, like, your bank offering you paper-based gold. There will be a big flight of capital from intangibles to tangibles,
Hmm.
stuff you can't touch to the stuff that you can. And that shift in reality or in consciousness that you're talking about will occur at a time, and it will just basically happen, I think, slowly, but then boom, all of a sudden. And if you can't put your and that'll go for 401ks, right? Your
Hmm.
401k, sure, I'm looking on the screen here and it's $500,000 or $250,000 or $50,000. That looks good, but what happens to that in a shift like that, where it's,
Hmm.
a company or an index fund or a bank that basically may not actually make it on the other side, right?
Hmm.
Currencies don't last forever, banks don't last forever, countries don't last forever. Although, seemingly they can, because our lifespan is very short in the grand scheme of things, right? So the things that last forever are gold and silver, other
Hmm.
commodities, other strategic physical assets. And so, obviously, I don't need to belabor the point. I've been doing this for a really, really long time. I'm very
Hmm.
passionate about educating people about taking the first step just to understand it. They don't have to make a move, right? Really appreciate you having me on. Is there anything you want to wrap up here with, Charlie?
No,
Any
I
little
think probably one of the most important things is it does not matter what part of the world you're in. Because of the fact that I would urge most of you to keep it in a safe place, and of course, Noble Gold have those safe places. You don't need to have it always in your possession physically, as long as they've got it in their place, or we've got places in Europe as well, it's important to keep it safe. But I think that covers everything, and it's always a real pleasure to speak to you, Micah, because your energy and also your experience, having done exactly the same as I've done, is valuable, because this isn't financial advice. What this is experience, sharing experience that has benefited both of us and our families. But if you're interested, the link is down below. And once again, Micah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Charlie, and wish your granddaughter a happy 7th for me. It's a fun age.
Cheers.
See you next time.
Protect your wealth before it's too late. While the world faces inflation, market crashes, and uncertainty, smart people are turning to real assets. With Charlie's Gold, you can invest in physical gold and silver, trusted wealth that has held value for generations. Don't wait until the next financial shock hits. Secure your future today with Charlie's Gold. Visit charlies.gold and start building real wealth now.